Welcome to a FaciliTopics presentation. My name is KQurbanzada. Over the next 10 minutes, I will be giving you some ideas about what project management is and as it pertains to the field of facilities management. First, who am I? As I said before, my name is Khadija. I'm a part of the first graduating class to obtain a degree in facilities management at Temple University, located in Philadelphia, PA. That's actually where my journey in facilities management started. I was able to find a home in facilities management starting with a degree. I switched from architecture to facilities management, and 8 years later, I'm happy I made that change. I made it for many reasons. It was the best of everything, including architecture, business, real estate, and most importantly, the job security. I'm a product of the real estate crash. I graduated from high school right as that was happening, and it was important for me to be able to have a job. I wanted to get my degree in something that could actually benefit me and be sure of it. So like I said, I've been doing it for over 7 years. I've worked in various fields of facilities management. Those include computer-aided facilities management, healthcare, and finally pharmaceuticals. I am currently an operations manager for CBRE at the GSK account. Let's get started on our topic. In order to understand what project management is, it's pretty important we understand what a project is. So I have a couple bullets here. As you can see, there are a couple of words that stand out, one being unique. A project is not your routine operation, but rather a specific set of operations in order to achieve one of your singular goals. So a project team often includes people who don't typically work together. They can come from varying organizations, CBRE being one of them. Projects are also temporary. Because they have a defined beginning and end, they also have a defined scope and resources. This is really important to remember later on when we're discussing the difference between facilities management and project management. Projects also include a team, a budget, schedule, and a set of expectations that team needs to meet in order to hand that project over. That'll all help us get a better understanding of what project management is. And ultimately, it's the management of those people, the time, and the budget. How does it pertain to facilities management? Every facilities manager inadvertently ends up becoming a project manager at some point in their careers. So FM can equal PM. Other times, the facilities manager who's not actually the project manager ends up heavily involved with the project if they're doing it the right way. We'll go into that a little bit later too. Because even when you're not the actual project manager, you will, or shall I say, should be heavily involved in projects, because ultimately we're the ones who receive the deliverables. I started with many small projects, such as upgrading a small aquatic recreation office for a rehab hospital, to becoming the actual facilities manager that was handed over a brand new cup that then impacted my team. So one situation, I'm the PM, another situation, I'm receiving the deliverables. And it's important that I stay involved from either perspective, either as the PM or as the FM who receives the project outcome. Before we do that and dive into the impact of whatever project it is, it's important as a facilities manager to remember our roles. A professor of mine once told me, facilities managers are the jack of all trades and master of none. Since then, I've just realized exactly how many hats that facilities managers have to wear. Sometimes we're finance, sometimes we're HR, other times we're procurement or sourcing, and the hat we're discussing today is project manager. So with all these hats, it can sometimes become very easy to get lost and forget what our role is at the end of the day, which is facilities manager. Both of these roles, as a facilities manager and a project manager, recognize the importance of safety, vendor management, achieving deliverables, but ultimately, it's the facilities manager's job to be focused on the big picture for the facility as a whole. and not just the individual project that the project manager is responsible for. It's important. Okay. The value and purpose and why it's important to remember that role. Sometimes we're assigned small projects that are given to us as a facilities manager, or working with the project manager who has a quote unquote small project, and it turns into something bigger. And that's usually what scope creep is. The level of detail that goes into most of these projects isn't always captured initially. And so it's very important to keep in mind that most projects are a lot more complex. And even if they start out simple, facilities are ever changing. So a small project that could have initially been rather simple could potentially become something much more complicated because the facility is changing. And that's why it's important that the facilities manager gives their input. And that kind of feeds into the difference of the PM and the facilities manager. The project manager's purpose is to achieve the deliverables of their specific project. And all that was predetermined, sometimes before even the project manager was assigned. Albeit there are typically room for contingencies, but even those are limited. The facilities manager has to keep in mind the big picture and the broader impact, and even the longevity of every single project in their facility. My job as a facilities manager doesn't end when the project's completed. My job is done when there's a plan in place to address the same concern in the future. It's very important that I remember that. So, what happens after a project is handed over? I achieved all the deliverables, and now what? It's a huge success just making it to the end of some of these projects. And I have to remember, what if I as a facilities manager wasn't a part of the project and I'm not familiar with the end result? What if I was only a part of it for some portion of it? Was that during the design phase or the build phase? There's so many different aspects of a project that could impact the facilities manager differently. The impact on your organization, if you're a facilities manager, if you're not involved or even consulted, is usually another project on top of the project to address all the shortcomings of the first project. Sometimes even after you've received all the updated plans, documents, operating manuals, and perhaps even gotten the opportunity to walk down the punch list with the project team, there are still some unacceptable items that may meet the requirements of the project, but are just not feasible in running a facility. This is why it's important that a facilities manager is involved with every project and every step of the way. After all, at the end of it all, it's the facilities managers that continue to run the facility even after the project's handed over. Sometimes we might end up fixing all those problems ourselves and self-assigning that small project, or other times it's waiting for a project manager to be assigned the follow-up project to address all those concerns with a new scope. And this time, hopefully we've learned the lesson and kept the facilities manager involved. At least that's the hope for the future, right? I think at this point, it's safe to say that we recognize just how intertwined these roles can be. And more facilities managers and people in the industry realize the value of including their peers, facilities managers, in their projects. After all, we're the ones who are familiar with the existing site, and we can become an asset in ensuring the longevity of their project's success when we're not only involved, but also heard. Our roles may vary and our visions of success may look different, but both can be successful when we recognize each other as allies and have regular communication with one another. I want to thank you for listening to this FaciliTopic on project management. FaciliTopics are short lessons on the facilities management industry intended to give you an overview of one topic. For more FaciliTopics or to learn more about Facilithon, please visit www.fmpipeline.org. This is KQurbanzada, and I thank you for joining me.